now we are going to end this session with the last part of the data analysis that I was talking about. So now we will start with the histogram plotting. So in the previous day, we were talking about this kind of plots, right? And also the explanation of this kind of plots. So now I will start with the histogram plot. Now the first question comes into our mind that after doing this such a great plots like pair plots and scatter plots and also the correlation plots, why we need to use this histogram plot? This thing you have to understand first. So now, I think you people will remember how our data set will look like. So whenever we do any particular kind of research, the first point that we have to show in the research paper is our data set description. Means how our data set will look like. Now, how our data set will look like, it does not mean that what is the dimension of the data. Because here we have only 4 feature column, 1 label column, and we have total 150 rows, means total 150 species of Irish data that I have already explained. Now we have one more explanation, that is what are the values exist in each column, because we are not able to provide our actual data set with the research paper. So what we will do, we will give one visual depiction of our original data set. Now, what is this visual depiction? We have to understand. This visual depiction will be provided in your research paper in the terms of histogram. So, how it is possible? See, say I am talking about this column. So, how to represent this column? So, the best way to represent this column in such a way that what kind of value exists, how many number of time? Just note this one. What kind of value exists, how many numbers of time? Means, say, consider this column. If I want to represent this column, sepal width of the Irish flower in terms of histogram, then it will look like this. Say, this is the first one, left top. This is the histogram that depicts the column sepal width. Now see here, the highest bar is ranging between 3.0 to 3.5. So what is the meaning of this value? And also, if you see, the peak of this bar is near about 70. It means we have the value frequency in this column between 3.0 to 3.5, and we have 70 such value. So in one word, we can say that into the sepal width column in my original data set, we have almost 70 values which are ranging between 3.0 to 3.5. Means maximum value lies between these two numbers. So if you see the data set and if you see the sepal width column, you will find that maximum value is between 3.0 to 3.5. So maximum value of this category. So this is how your histogram will help to define each and every column of your data set. It means, so the first question that should come in your mind, why we have to plot histogram, and we have to plot the histogram row wise or column wise. Here the answer is you have to plot the histogram feature wise. Feature wise means these are the 4 features available for your Irish flower, and how many values exist in what number of times. This is known as data frequency, and this frequency will be depicted by this histogram. Now, how to plot this one? So I have already plotted this one for sepal width, sepal length. Say if you pick up the sepal length, right top one, you will find that the longest bar is between almost 5.5 to 6.0. So it's almost this kind of value we have of the sepal length. So I have used 4 histogram because we have only 4 features. And what is the conclusion? I have written this conclusion here carefully. So these are the conclusions of the histograms that I am finding. These are the analysis that I am getting from all these histograms. So see, the highest frequency of sepal width is between 3.0 to 3.5, which is around 70. So if you see each and every plot, you will be able to find out this inference. So this is the main importance of histogram. So now the question is how we can design this histogram. See, for designing the histogram, first you have to remember one point. That is, the first thing for designing histogram, what you have to do, you have to use plt.subplots. So what is this PLT? Again, we know that PLT is an alias. Alias of what? So PLT is an alias of the library matplotlib.pyplot. So from here I am getting this PLT. Means instead of calling this library matplotlib.pyplot, it's a large name, so we prefer to call it as PLT. So now for today's histogram plot, yesterday we were using SNS, this alias for seaborn, but today we are using PLT. So this thing you have to remember and you have to keep in your mind. For histogram plotting, which alias to use, for correlation plotting, which alias to use. So this alias differs plot wise. So here I'm just using this alias PLT, and then I am using one function which is known as subplots. Now you can ask me this question, why this is known as subplot? So this question is a very common question that you have to keep in mind. See, whenever we want to display feature wise or column wise many plots together, all these sections are known as facets. And whenever we are going to display this kind of facet kind of plot, then this kind of plots are known as subplots. So here we are creating numerous plots together as a one whole plot. So this plot is having some subplots. So this is the basic concept of a subplot. So that's why I'm using this function subplots. And then I have already defined yesterday what are this functionality. These are the just size of the subplots and size of the graphs. This is 6 cross 9 means total size of the graph. Also total size of the visual histogram, and these are the subplot size 2 by 2. So, and now we have to plot all the axes one by one. So this is 0 0. So all these plots we have, it is represented by in terms of a matrix. So 0 0 means the first one, which is responsible for holding the sepal width column. So this axis 0 0 will show the sepal width column. So that's why I am providing a title at the axis 0 0. So this is the first top facet, and then we will plot a histogram. Hist is the function which is used to plot the histogram, and this is the column name of my data set, sepal.width, right? And this is the width of the beans, means width of this bars. You can change the width of this bean. So accordingly, the next facet will be definitely for sepal length. So this one, it will be a 0 1 facet. That is the right top one. So similarly, first fix up the facet in which you want to display your histogram. Set the title, and then using the same axis, you have to plot the histogram. You have to mention the column name from your data set, and then you can set the width of the bean. And now here you will observe I have used multiple width of the bean. Now the question is why? See, whenever we have numerous amounts of different kinds of values in my columns, then I cannot afford bean with a larger width, because it will be as a result, what will happen, some beans will be displayed out of the facet. So according to your requirement, you just change the width of the beans, So this is the thing that you have to do. So it's a very easy thing. So first fix up the axis, then set the title with the function name set title, and then plot the histogram using hist function and mention the column name and set the bin width. So this is how you will have to display the histogram plot. So this is all about your basic dataset explanation. So in your research paper, if you have this kind of histogram, means you are clearly defining your data set. No need to upload this data set separately in order to prove that you are working on a real life data set. So this is the first point you have to remember. Now,
ma'am, bins means the bins that you have used, that is the width of the bars.
Bars. Bins are known as the bars.
Okay.
So you can change the width of these bars. See, all bars will not have the same width, right? They are having separate width. So by adjusting this value, you can change this one. So now, again, we have another problem. So I have already discussed in the data analysis portion, understanding the skewness is very much important. Understanding the Kurth value is very much important. So in the pair plot, we have used these diagonal values. Now, actually, you can also plot this kind of univariate analysis for data analysis section. Now, why it is a univariate analysis? So at the beginning of this class, somebody asked me this question: what do you mean by univariate analysis and what do you mean by multivariate analysis? See, whenever we are depicting the plot or the visual effect using more than one column attribute, it will become multivariate analysis. So up to this, whatever analysis we were performing, almost maximum of them were multivariate analysis. But if you see this plot clearly, you will be able to understand I have used only one column, that is petal width. And here I am plotting this value. What kind of plot it is, I will explain it to you. But first try to understand the essence of this plot. Here I have used only one column name. Here the question is why I'm using this one column name. See, this kind of univariate analysis is again useful in order to understand which particular feature is very much important for my data set. Now see this outcome. We have some blue bins, we have some orange bins, and we have some green bins. But if you look this graph carefully, you will find that we have some overlapping green and orange bins. So here, see, I have written this conclusion over here. So here we can conclude in one word, that is, blue means the Setosa species, versicolor species means the orange one, and the virginica means the green one. This is the labeling that I have used. Now from this plot, I can easily say that if we want to define our data set on the basis of the petal width, means if I use the linear discriminator input as petal width, linear discriminator means if you want to classify these three objects, three species, one from another. So what will happen if I use the petal width column? So I will not be able to separate versicolor and virginica because properties of petal width are overlapping with each other. So this feature is not much effective in order to classify this species. So I have to use any other attribute. So you can try out this kind of plot for all the features available to you. So if I use sepal length, then again the same thing. In the sepal length, we will not be able to separate these three species properly because they are very much overlapping in nature. Means sepal length of a Irish flower of these three species are very much similar to each other. They look exactly similar, means length of the sepal is almost same for three species. So do not use this feature. So that's why if your data set is having more than one feature, so which feature is contributing more, so at that point of time you can pick up one feature at a time and then try to plot them. And this is the importance of univariate analysis. So now I'm just concluding this section. It's a very important part. So what do you mean by univariate analysis? So in one word we can say that uni means one. So we can say that whenever we are using single feature from our data set, then it is responsible for univariate analysis. And now if you look at this one, if you look at the plotting category, I have already explained that. If you see, again I have used SNS alias, which is coming from Seaborn. So Seaborn is responsible for plotting this univariate analysis, and this kind of plot is known as facet grid. So yesterday I was explaining that what is the rule of plotting anything in Python. First, write down the alias dot, then the graph name. So this graph is known as facet grid, and then you have to write the data frame name. So why it is data? If you see over here, data frame means where I have just read the file. So whatever CSV file I have read, it is stored in the data. So then I have written this data frame name, and then again I am using hue. Now you know what is this hue is all about. Hue means we are going to put the legend, means segregation is defined with the help of this hue, means a variety is the column name. So on the basis of this column, I am just separating the species. So that's why under hue attribute, I have written this one as variety column. And then height, you can change height of this graph. And then this part is very much important for univariate analysis. In the previous day, we don't have to add the legend separately. But for facet grid, this is a special syntax where you have to add legend at the end. And here, this part is same as the previous one. Use the column name on the basis of which you want to see the output. So since we want to analyze the sepal length attribute, so here I am just mentioning sepal length column name, right? So this is how you can use the facet grid plot. So here the first question that will come in your interview, that what kind of plot is your facet grid plot? So your answer will be facet grid plot will take only one feature attribute at a time, right? So this one is not your feature. On the basis of this column, I am just segregating these three species. So this is the means this column is helping us to differentiate the species, but I am analyzing this attribute only. So at a time it will take only one attribute. That's why we can say that facet grid is one kind of univariate analysis. So this is now you can use this univariate analysis one by one for different kinds of attributes or features that you have in your data set. But today I'm not talking about this. The main part is this one. So this is the one of the most important plot which is applicable to each and every data analysis. This plot is known as
warning over there.
So this is due to the mismatch of the data set name. Actually what I did, data frame name means I am just reading the data from over here. Don't worry about this warning. But I have already tried, I will show it to you. We can also fetch some of the data set from the existing library in case of Python. So actually I was testing this code for both. I was just testing if anyone wants to read the file or load the file directly from UCI machine learning, whether it is working or not. Also, they can read the data file after downloading like this. So that's why there is a mismatch in the data frame name. That's why it is showing a warning. So no issues. When you execute this code, there will be no warning. Okay, so try to understand, you will get this warning for two reasons. First, the data frame name mismatch, or you have some syntactical mistake. So I do not have any syntactical mistake. This is due to the data frame name mismatch. Okay, so now this is the box plot that I was talking about. So you have to understand this plot, because with this plot you have so many explanation associated. So here you can say that again I am using box plot within 4 facets. So I'm using, means I'm depicting this visualization not as a whole part. So I'm depicting this visualization column wise. So since we have 4 features, so we have 4 box plot analysis. So what is this box plot? First, let me explain this one. Don't get confused, because sometimes this box plot is also known as whisker plot. This is the spelling. Whisker plot, and which is created in order to create the summary. Summary of what? Summary on the set of data values, which is having the properties like minimum, maximum, first quartile, second quartile, like this. So what is first quartile, second quartile? I have explained everything whenever I was giving you the video on IQR analysis. So mean, max, everything we can find out with the describe function. But this describe function, it will give you some output in terms of values, real values. And I've already explained that human minds are not very good in analyzing numbers. So if we see any visual effect, it will be very easier for us to find out the underlying statistics of my actual data set. So box plot or whisker plot is used to find out the summary visualization. So this point you have to remember. So instead of using describe function, you can also use box plot or whisker plot, or here you can use the both. So we are going to do the same thing with the box plot that we use with the describe plot. So now try to understand what it is showing. So from this, if you visualize this outcome very carefully, you will find that for each and every column I have created one separate box plot where 3 species are clearly depicted. But one thing you can see that, see here, petal dot width means left top one. Here above setosa you have some dots. Here also left lower bottom one, you have also dots. So what are these dots in the box plot? So the first point you have to remember, whenever you have some dots in the box plot, means it is depicting some outliers. So what are the outliers? I have already explained. Some extreme value, means whether it is a maximum value or minimum value which is beyond the range of the usual value that exists in the column. So if you see in the previous analysis, we have found that using histogram. So what will be the range? Means in this column we have maximum range in between 1.4 to 1.6. These are the maximum range. If I get some value under this column, say 6.9. So it's a large amount of value which is deviating from actual value that exists in this column. So this kind of deviation will be detected as outliers, and outliers are the dangerous thing in our data set. If outlier exists, then whenever we use this data set for machine learning modeling, as a result what will happen, your machine learning model accuracy will be dropping. It will drop, right? So now the question is, I was discussing that this plot, means this one, is equivalent to describe plot. Fine, but if you see the describe plot statistics, so what will happen? Detection of outlier is very much difficult. So at that point of time, I have to find out mean value, I have to check the maximum value, then I have to find out the median value, then I have to check whether there exists some value which is above or below this kind of parameters or not. But if you apply box plot, within a fraction of second, you will be able to see without knowing anything that that particular column is having any outlier or not. So if you see the top left one, the analysis of this box plot, I have already written that. See, in this box plot, Setosa is usually has smaller feature with few outliers. See, if you see from this box plot, what we can say that, see, this box, top one, left top one, blue one is very much thin, and the orange one is thick, and the Virginica green one is thicker than the orange one. So it means the petal width, in general, the petal width of Setosa species is very less with compared to other two species. So this is the first analysis. So you can find out the actual meaning of the underlying species feature description. Second, we can say that this Setosa category is having outliers. However, the other two category will not have any outliers. So we can easily go to our data set and we can check the petal width column, and we will go to the Setosa category only, and then we will find out what values are outlier. So it is very easy to detect outlier if you have the box plot. Now here you have one line at the middle of this box plot. So this is the median value. So in this case, so for each and every box plot, you will be able to find this vertical line. So whenever you have some vertical line in the box plot, which goes through the box, which will be known as median. And here x-axis denotes the data to be plotted, while y-axis shows the frequency distribution. So in one word, I can say that the entire concept of outlier, the entire concept of frequency distribution that we was talking about in case of histogram, and also the concept of particular column, everything is very much clear if you are able to plot this box plot. So this box plot is a clear depiction of your data set, and again the same thing, we will use this box plot feature wise, means column wise. Now how to plot the box plot? So I have written this analysis. So here again the basic rule is same. For plotting anything, first fix up the size, and then you have to check the alias. So here we are using PLT alias. And then since the name is box plot, for plotting box plot I am using SNS, because it is very clear to us whenever we want to see a very good visualization, Seaborn is the only library and SNS is the alias of the Seaborn. So the alias name and then the type of the plot. So I am using box plot. And here I have already explained that what is this Y. So y-axis will hold the column name, and x-axis will hold what? It will hold the data to be plotted. Means on the basis of different category of the species, means on the basis of this fifth column in my data set variety, I am just plotting the behavior of the petal width, right? And here y data is equal to data. Don't get confused. Actually, I want to represent this one. This data is the keyword that is already there in the syntax. But unfortunately, whatever data frame name I have used for reading the CSV file, which is also data. So this is the name of your data frame in which we have our CSV file. And this data in the left side is the keyword. So that's why it is data is equal to data. And then we have the facet values, right? So we have all the facet values over here, 0001, 1011. So why I have created this value orient as V, I'm not going to disclose this one, because I am going to give you the assignment, and I will give you the first assignment that I will let you know that first you have to change this one. After changing the value from V to X, or you can put any value within single quotes, then you have to see what are the changes which is happening in the plot. So this part I am just leaving for you all, or rest of the part I am just defining. So this is your first task you have to remember. I will share this file with you today. So here you have to make some change. Instead of V, you can write X, O, anything. And then you have to find what are the changes it is happening in your plot. And then finally, to see all the facets together, you have to write plt.show. So this is how you will create the box plot. Then again, box plot is not enough, because we have some more questions about our data set. Box plot is good for depicting the median value, for depicting the outliers, fine, column wise. But you can also explore another beautiful plot which is known as violin plot. See this picture first. It's a wonderful plot that you can see. So what is this violin plot? So this plot is another important plot, and in my research I have used this plot so many times. So this violin plot basically is a method to visualize the distribution. Now distribution of what? You can only visualize the data distribution if this distribution is numerical in nature. So you have to be very clear. If your column is holding categorical value, then do not go for the violin plot. But in this case, we are sure that our sepal length, sepal width, petal length and petal width, everything is having numerical values or real values. So I can use this violin plot to see the data distribution. Now the second point is, when I describe this violin plot, you will find that this violin plot is almost similar to box plot, but with a rotated plot on each side will give us the more information about the density estimation. This is the important thing that I am going to depict. So this violin plot has the additional feature where I will get some density estimation on the y-axis. Now see the plot. First see the plot. So this is the y-axis where it is written. So when you see the thickness of the plot varies along the y-axis. So this thickness will show the density. So this is the beauty of the violin plot, and this is the basic difference between violin plot and box plot. That is, the density estimation can be found here using the violin plot. So basically the density is mirrored. See, we have the division in between, and this density is mirrored. So whatever density we have in the left hand side, the same density is replicated, mirrored and flipped over the resulting shape, and it is true for everything. So we have mirror kind of density which is creating a violin kind of shape, or you can say that it's a mirror that is holding two images side by side, depicting or creating a violin kind of shape. So the advantage of this violin plot is that it can show a specific distribution of the participatable box plot. Means what I can say means perceptible box plot. More precisely, I can say that. So whatever values we have in each and every column, it will give you a clear estimation about its density. Now, if you ask me this question, okay, what is this density? We don't got this. So now I have skipped one plot over here. We can have separate kind of density plots. See, again I am telling you that the skewness and the kurth that I was defining, it's very much important, because whether my data is distributed normally or not, means if you have Gaussian kind of curve, such as the first curve and say the second curve, these are having the Gaussian kind of distribution. So whenever we have this kind of distribution, means we have the median, and if the median is at center, we have equal amount of distributed data in both the sides. So this kind of distribution is very much good. It means my data features are normally distributed. Unfortunately, if you see petal width and petal length, this data distribution is not normally distributed. So without drawing this plot, you can find out this concept in the violin plot too. So this is the concept of the violin plot, from which you can find out what is the density of the data, right? And on the other hand, I have already explained that in the box plot, the outliers, you can find the outliers in the box plot with a clear dot. So however, here see, there is no question of outlier. So now it is up to you what you want to do with your data set. If you want to only see the outlier, then box plot is better. But if you estimate the normal distribution of or not, the data set is normally distributed or not, then at that point of time you will see the violin plot. But now we have the second task of your assignment. I will upload these questions definitely. I am talking about density, right? Density of the data set. So from here you can say that thick one is having more density, thinner one will have less number of density. But how you can justify, means what you can infer from this density? Can you compare this violin plot with this density estimation plot? And can we define some skewness or Kurth value from this density estimation plot? This thing you have to understand. See, this is a sepal dot width. This is the density of the sepal width, means it is almost normally distributed. Now for sepal dot width, see the violin plot. So this is your sepal dot width, sepal dot length, sepal dot width. Yes. Oh, I have made one mistake. You just create this one. I have written that sepal dot length. So I'm just taking another one. You have to change the title of this plot. No issues. We have sepal dot length. Say we have a confusion which one is a sepal dot length. So both is known as sepal dot length. So anyways, so from this two, can you justify this one? So I have plotted the same thing twice over here. So here, according to the sepal length, we have Gaussian distribution. Now see the density of the violin. See, the density of the violin is almost symmetrical around the black line. So we can say that, so these are the normal distribution. They are normally distributed. However, if we find any kind of distribution, like say petal dot width, we have some asymmetrical values around this black line, right? For Setosa, for versicolor and for virginica, petal dot width. Now go to the density estimation plot. Petal dot width, you will find, see, this is not Gaussian distribution. So you have to observe the mirror image, means the shape of the violin. Then only you will be able to find the distribution. And here you don't have to find the amount of distribution, density. You have to find whether they are normally distributed or not. So this is the very basic thing you have to remember. So in the previous day, you have asked me one question. So what kind of data analysis we can perform on a specific data set? So this is my answer. Whenever you track this entire sheet, you will be able to find these are the very basic data analysis which you can apply on each and every data file, no matter how many features it is holding. And also, if you see the sheet properly, I have written the conclusion of each and every plot clearly, so that you people will understand what is the final data analysis we are creating using IRIS dataset, right? So after this session, I will expect that, so our data analysis is done, but use this sheet. And I have one request, you know that how to download data set from real machine learning repository, that is from UCI. Each one of you have to pick up one data set, and you have to refer that video also, that on what basis we have to pick up the data set. We are learning classification on data set. So while picking the data, you have to pick the data which is described as application as classification problem. So pick any one of the data, whether it is a disease data, whether it is a real life data, whether it is a life science data, no matter, pick one data and perform all the proper analysis. And you have to use all this code, and at the end of each and every code, I will expect that you will write one overall conclusion like this. So you have to follow this sheet. So this is the first step towards machine learning. Means, what is the conclusion of today's class? That is, so we are learning that our expectation is we will use some machine learning model. And what is the task we are performing for the time being? It is classification. Classification is also known as linear discrimination. Means we are going to classify Setosa, versicolor and virginica, these three kind of flower. But the problem is we have to extract data from a real repository, that is UCI. So after extracting data, we are not be able to feed that data into the directly into the machine learning model, right? So what we have to do, we have to perform data analysis. On the basis of data analysis, what we are getting important features. And then whichever features are unimportant, we will remove them from the data set. And then our data set is ready to feed in the machine learning model. Then we will learn how to train our machine learning model to get a proper classified outcome. And this output will be measured with some parameter which is known as accuracy parameter. This accuracy parameter will tell us how much greater accuracy we have achieved while classifying these three species, right? So we will do this part next. So we have completed this part up to this data analysis. But I will only start this second part if you complete the assignment. That is, you have to fetch one data set from UCI and you have to perform all the analysis that is given over here. And also, if you find that if you are plotting something and this plot is not depicting any significant result for your data set, so you have to write it as a conclusion, right? You have to write it that box plot is not suitable for my data set. My data set is say cancer data set or something like that. So you have to justify each and every plot. So this is all about your data analysis. What I have provided previously, try to implement all of them, because up to this part it is the complete portion of data analysis. But it may happen some of the code will not give you some significant inference, but don't avoid it. Do it and then write the conclusion that it is not contributing anything. And if possible, write down the reason. Say here outliers are not clear, or this graph is not depicting something, so you can justify it also. And justification, I don't need any extra sheet. I will gather this IPNY this format from you all. You just download from here, file, and just go to here, download as, and this format you have to follow, this one. We have several formats, but I prefer this one, IPYNB format, this notebook. So you have to download this sheet in this format. So all of you, I have one request, or do this all kind of analysis. It will give you a very good start towards machine learning. Check three things. First, you have to check about the data, means what is this data is all about. Oh, above the data set you have one abstract. So purpose of the data is very much important. Means is this data is significant for real life application? If the data set has no application in the real life, then don't use that data. First thing. Second thing, just check how many features you have in the data set. Features mean it will be written as attribute. So always go for the higher features. Then you will check the purpose of the data, classification. If the data set is used for classification only, use that data, grab that data. So that's it. You have to check these three things: purpose of the data, type of the data, and number of attributes present in the data. So if you have larger feature, say if you have 10, 20, 30 feature, then it will be easier for you to understand that which feature are important, which feature are not important. Then correlation analysis and pair plot will work, right? So just pick the data carefully. So I think data science part is clear, and from the next day we will start our first machine learning algorithm, means how to apply classification. From that algorithm onwards, we will go into the complex details, right? So this part is the most important part. Then applying machine learning algorithm will take only one line, but I will explain the algorithm with details and mathematical explanation also. So you will find me doing some vector calculus. So don't be afraid of that. You have to learn this one, because what will happen whenever you are using Python, so Python will give you one library or one function, and you are just invoking that function and you are getting the output. But this is not the way how you can learn. I will explain each and every parameter. Not only that, I will also explain how this mathematical calculation is going on behind. Because if you don't understand that concept, you will never understand how this machine learning algorithms are actually mimicking the human behavior. And also I will give some input about artificial intelligence, that why this machine learning is a subset of this artificial intelligence. Then only you will be able to find that what I am going to depict, why these algorithms are so powerful. Let me download this one. See, this is how you can download. It will be downloaded. And if you understand the algorithm, you can make it a very simple way. But understanding the data and also fetching the data, you will find the difficulty. You go and use in the UCI and try to fetch the data, because after fetching the data, you have to process the data. You will not get data like this, right? You will get the data in the format of TXT file. You have to copy it in the notebook, and then from notebook, you have to save it into the notepad, and then from here you will go to data and then get external data, and from text. This is how you can fetch the data into the CSV file, and then you have to go to the file, then save as, then comma separated delimiter, CSV. From here you have to select this one, comma separated delimiter, right? So this is how you have to prepare your data also. You are not getting your data like CSV. But I have one option to use shortcut. If you don't want to process your data, so go to Kaggle. See, Kaggle is fetching data from UCI, but in Kaggle you will get everything whatever you have in UCI, but you will also find the CSV format. It's a ready-made means it's available. This CSV format is available in Kaggle. So instead of going to UCI, you just access this one, Kaggle, and fetch any CSV file from there. Go and type Kaggle. So in the Kaggle, you have one search option. So you just search any data name. If you have no idea,
Okay.
then search all the data. You will find the CSV file. Top left, download as CSV. It will be written as. So accessing data from Kaggle is easier. So at that point of time, you need no data processing. So it's a shortcut trick.